Literally just the other day, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the current Commander-in-Chief General Syrskyi, announced the liberation from the Muscovites of at least 400 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, apparently since the beginning of February, let's put it that way, and the clearing of at least 8 settlements from small assault groups of the occupiers. Exactly which settlements were meant has not yet been specified with reliable information. Obviously, this makes a certain amount of sense, but open sources do allow us to fairly clearly identify the main directions of the counterattacking efforts of the Ukrainian tactical grouping. Air assault troops, separate assault brigades and units, regular mechanized units of the armed forces of Ukraine, and territorial defense battalions in the Julipole sector of the front. These are primarily the Sosnivka directions. Ternove, Oleksivka, Kalinivske, the area restored near Oleksandrivka, Naverbove and Vishneve, together with Yehorivka. It is evident that a little earlier Ukrainian soldiers managed to completely clear out the small Moscow infantry groups. The polygon of Andrivka, Bratske, Herasimivka, Ostapivske and Danilivka. There was no continuous enemy presence in this area, but certainly attempts. The assault group of Rashid's 5th Tank Brigade and the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade, let's put it that way, to gain a foothold at least on the eastern bank of the Hychel and to establish their positions further to the west. Such attempts near the R85 highway definitely took place at the end of January. As for Danilivka itself, which is located directly on the R80 highway, Number 5 is located approximately next to the highway around here, and it seems that as of now it remains in the gray zone. It is worth separately mentioning the northeasternmost sector of the front. It appears that this is exactly where the Muscovites have redeployed their 69th Cover Brigade. And this area within the polygon formed by Oleksandrograd, Voskresenka, Sishneva and Novoselivka is, at least situationally, is it perhaps the only one? In the entire Julipole sector of the front, where the Muscovites continue systematic pressure with an overall focus on the eastern outskirts of Velikomihailivka, in the Julipole sector of the front, where the main attacking force is the 5th Combined Arms Army of the Rashists, which probably not without reason was considered the most combat ready. In the entire Vostok group of forces, it was for a long time the main one. The strike force of the Muscovites on this flank. So here, it seems that by the end of last week, Ukrainian soldiers managed, at least it appears so, to completely clear the territory on the western bank of the Hychel River of Muscovites, at least in the section from Novozaporizhzhia to Varvarivka, including both Dobropilya and Priluki, but the fighting here remains frankly fierce, with both sides advancing toward each other. Literally just the other day, the Russians, using the already mentioned 5th Tank Brigade and the 60th Motorized Rifle Brigade, apparently launched a series of counterattacks in the direction of that same Dobropilya, likely aiming for Kosivtseve. It's too early to talk about a stable presence of the occupiers. At the moment, there seems to be no reason to believe so in either of these settlements, but the fact remains that the enemy here is not laying down their arms, at least for now, and that is an established fact. And perhaps the most threatening situation is in the southernmost part of the sector, specifically directly around Julipole, where the Russian 114th Motorized Rifle Regiment of the 127th Motorized Rifle Division and the 57th Motorized Rifle Brigade are attacking directly through Julipole to the west. And in the northern direction, the 38th Russian, the Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 35th Combined Arms Army, which operates south of the city, tries to assault the Ukrainian defensive line every day. Here, they are trying to expand this bridgehead already on the western bank of the Hychel River. The main direction of the enemy's attacks here is along the western flank, bypassing Olena Kostiantinivka towards Sviatopetrivske, Stara Ukrainka, Tsvitkove, and in fact towards Zaliznyshne from the south and from the east. The Ukrainian General Staff insists that the Muscovites do not have full control over this territory, including Julipole, or so it is claimed. Fighting continues here, including within the city itself, but most sources insist that the war has already moved beyond both the western and northern outskirts of the city. Right now, we have the opportunity to hear a few details about the operational situation in the southern sector, particularly on the Pokrovske-Julipole section of the front. The commander of the 1st Separate Assault Regiment, named after Dmytro Kotsiubailo, Captain Dmytro Filatov, call sign Perun, is already connected to the studio. Mr. Dmytro, welcome.
Greetings to the studio, greetings to the viewers.
Before I ask any questions, would like to draw the viewers' attention. The QR code, as usual, this time is for raising funds for 5 specialized mobile stabilization points for the soldiers of the 1st Separate Assault Regiment. Such stabilization points truly help save the lives of our wounded soldiers. They are needed here due to the very intense fighting, so if you can, don't stay on the sidelines when it comes to this extremely important assistance. Mr. Dmytro, first of all, can you tell us what is currently happening in the sector controlled by your regiment? So the further displacement of the enemy to the east continues, as I understand it, already on the eastern bank of the Haichul. Have Ukrainian counterattacks in the Oleksandrivka and Julipole sectors slowed down for now?
Our attacks take place depending on the weather conditions. We try not to take unnecessary risk with our personnel, and we strategically execute and conduct our offensive actions only during those specific periods when the greatest possible number of critical factors that influence a successful and impactful outcome are aligned in our favor and working to our advantage. That is, these are weather conditions, the exhaustion of the enemy, accordingly, the density of the soil itself. We decide whether to enter with mechanized units or on foot. Consequently, our offensive military operations are not being executed with a consistent level of maximum daily intensity.
Let me clarify, and you can decide whether to answer or not. If we are talking about such settlements as Dobropilia, Priluki, Varvarivka, can we say that they are currently under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine? Yes.
These settlements are completely under control. Moreover, the area controlled by the defense forces extends much further.